Let's bring you some more business reaction to the news we've had today. If you're just joining us, we have had the news confirm that Sydney's lockdown has been extended for another week. We've seen 27 new cases recorded in New South Wales today. Let's bring in Business New South Wales CEO Daniel Hunter. Daniel, another tough week ahead for Sydney businesses and, of course, for workers who have lost their shifts.
Yes, it's a devastating impact on businesses in New South Wales. The New South Wales government has always done a pretty good job of balancing the health and economic outcomes of this pandemic. We know that. However, this time around, this lockdown has had a bigger impact on business than before. There's no JobKeeper, there's no rent relief, there's a lot less support around, and really devastating that extra third week, and hopefully it doesn't go any longer than that.
Yeah, and when you mentioned JobKeeper, we did just have confirmation from the Federal Treasurer there, Josh Frydenberg, that the Commonwealth has no plans to reignite JobKeeper across the country, which doesn't really come as a huge surprise. Federally, when you look at the support measures on offer, as the Treasurer pointed out there, the same support is being offered to New South Wales now as it was to Victoria just a few weeks ago. The Treasurer confirming he's rejected the New South Wales government's request to bring back JobKeeper. Is that disappointing to you, or fair enough, considering the government has a different, more targeted approach now to lockdown? They've decided with the states that the federal government will support individuals in that targeted scheme. It's up to state governments to provide businesses with support.
Yeah, I think that original JobKeeper was as much about stimulating the economy as it was about supporting workers. So I understand where they're coming from, because the amount of cost, and it was all debt to the government and for future generations. The state government of New South Wales did put out a support package for small businesses last week, which was really well received. However, that was at a time when we thought we were coming out of a 2-week lockdown. We're about to go into that third week of lockdown. We hope it doesn't go much further than that. What we have just done at Business New South Wales is a lockdown impact survey on businesses across the state. And what we're seeing is that first 2 weeks of lockdown, the revenue downturn has been as much as the first 2 months of the pandemic in March of last year. So they've lost that revenue in 2 weeks that they lost in 2 months of March of last year. And the difference is JobKeeper. And every week that goes on costs the New South Wales economy and New South Wales businesses $1 billion. And it's having a huge impact on business and people's lives. People are under stress. People are under financial hardship, and it's impacting their mental health and wellbeing.
Daniel, how do you rate the state government's handling of the lockdown extension? Has there been confusion over which businesses can open, which ones need to close? Has there been a problem, do you think, with the messaging on that front?
I think one thing this pandemic has shown us is that to expect the unexpected. I think this Delta variant caught everybody by surprise. It's obviously much more transmissible than previous variants. So I think the messaging has been difficult. It's not an easy job for the state government to get that messaging right. Obviously, in retrospect, you can always look in the rear vision mirror on how things are done at the time and improve upon that. I think they are doing the best that they can, but the impact on people needs to be taken into account. There's an impact there that I don't know that we're talking enough about, and it's the mental health and wellbeing impact on people. This is businesses that simply aren't going to recover. There are some businesses that will shut permanently and not come back. There are people that will lose their jobs permanently, and that also has a health impact, a mental health impact on people. And I think it's something that we need to start having a conversation about.
Yeah, it is a really important aspect of all of this, of course. Daniel, we just heard a lot from the Treasurer then about getting businesses engaged to help with the vaccine rollout. How important a role do you see businesses, in particular some of the nation's big businesses, playing in terms of offering incentives, offering sites, getting vaccinations happening on site like a lot of businesses already do with the flu jab, for example?
I think offering of incentives is good, and I think in future vaccination programs that rolling them out at sites and employer sites is going to be very important. The problem that we have with our vaccine rollout at the moment is not that we don't have enough sites and we don't have enough people to give the actual vaccinations, is that we don't have enough supply of the Pfizer vaccine. Ironically, we have a huge supply of the AstraZeneca vaccine. However, the messaging has been so mixed on that people are now too nervous to go and get it. You can get an AstraZeneca vaccine the next day or the same day if you want to. There's plenty of supply of that. Our problem, though, is not so much having people available to give vaccinations, it's that we don't have supply of the vaccines that people want.